Welcome to Detective Diaries, brought to you by Private Detectives Answers Investigation. If you're captivated by the art of deduction, the thrill of solving the unsolvable, or the enigmatic world of private investigation, you have just found your new favourite podcast. Detective Diaries are where secrets are unravelled and the truth is always a clue away. Presented by Private Detective Answers Investigation. Each episode contains offbeat conversations about the real people involved in investigation.
Welcome to Season 3 of Detective Diaries, the podcast from Answers Investigation that peels back the curtain on the gritty, complex world of modern private detection. As we enter this new season, we transition from the high-stakes historical and corporate intrigue of Season 2, like investigations in Europe and into moonlighting employees in the UK, to an even deeper exploration of the specialised skills and international operations that define our skilled private investigators. Season 3 officially kicks off today, bringing listeners front and centre into live cases and technical deep dives. So, what to expect in Season 3? Listen to trilingual investigator Adina Lolacheriou as she navigates complex cross-border cases in Switzerland. Go behind the scenes of high-tech forensics, including mobile phone data recovery and the evolving field of investigative psychology with guest experts like Professor Ray Blunt. We also have stories of Slovenian serial killers and more historic accounts of such as Eugène François Vidocq, the father of private investigation. So sit back and prepare to challenge your perceptions of civil cases, legal cases, and crime as we prove that in the world of private investigation, appearances are almost always deceiving. Welcome to Detective Diaries.
Private investigators and the police. Now, as one would think, there are many natural overlays between the two parties here, but there are actually many reasons why a client may choose to deploy a private investigator prior to the involvement of the police. Two factors come to mind. The first is jurisdiction. Now, a lot of cases may involve an international element which perhaps the police on a local level can't facilitate or deal with. But more importantly, actually, it's the matter of dealing with the particular issues at hand. A lot of times the police will be going on the basis of looking at what evidence can be used for the CPS. What do? Well, we might be dealing with the private matters of a client. It's not necessarily going to go to court. It's what they want to get out of it. The second, discretion. A lot of times there are cases which involve the need of discreet and covert inquiry, something the police might not necessarily be able to approach and apply to the particular matters that a client may have. I've got Nigel with me here today. We're going to share some stories about a few cases that have involved the police and how we've dealt with matters which perhaps have been provided to us post engagement of any police forces in the United Kingdom. And so we're going to take a deep dive. We're going to really get into this and tell a few tales. So Nigel, you're joining me here today, and actually I'm going to cast your mind back before we even get started on all of this. There was a flat in Chelsea, if you remember. We were tasked with coming to have a look at what had happened. There was an incident of burglary, and now it's not just any Chelsea flat. We're talking millions and millions of pounds. We're talking millions of pounds being removed from the property. We were tasked with coming and having a look because police officers had visited the site. The client wasn't necessarily enthused by the results that had been obtained.
Well, yes, Socko had been to look at the flat and sent them a letter a week over saying there's nothing further that we can do. At the time, the owners of the house were resident of the place in Scotland and consequently not there. So it had been left untouched and we were invited to go and re-examine it forensically.
Exactly that. A lot of the times, clients may be coming to us on a proactive basis rather than a reactive one. So we turned up at this property in Chelsea, did a full examination, top to bottom, and what did we discover? Something that Socko had missed out. There was a footprint, and this footprint was on the neighbouring conservatory roof. Now, this was clear as day to us, and actually further investigation revealed that clearly the neighbouring property had also been burgled at that time.
Now, you say it's clear as day. Well, I kind of would dispute that because the bedroom had a very, very small balcony. And whenever we look at this sort of thing, yes, you can do the forensics. And yeah, you're very, very good at that. And you run a team who know what they are doing. However, I can remember standing on that balcony and trying to look at the whole thing rather than focusing on one little bit and one little point of it. Standing out there, the next door neighbour, whose property then adjoined a side road, had an angled glass conservatory. I'm standing there thinking, well, hang on a minute, what's that one there?
Yeah.
It's a footprint.
Yes.
And then when you tracked it back, you could see across the neighbour's garden, and the property was completely unoccupied.
Yes.
You could see tracks running through the grass where somebody had taken a heavy trolley and had somehow got the safe from our client's house out, down through a first floor, probably dropped it on there, run it on the trolley. Because the grass was wet, the grooves were in there. We took a footprint impression off from the glass and could work out how the whole thing had done, which was essentially from a van being parked in a side road on the other side of a side gate. Having worked out how it had been done, we walked across the neighbour's garden and skipped across the wall because the property was empty and there was nothing in it. Just went and had a look through the windows, tried the back door, and the back door's open because it'd been forced. Now, I'm not knocking the police and the SOCO on this.
Sure.
But the perpetrators had a go at the place next door first.
Yes.
They'd obviously been in. You could see footprints up on the carpets going up onto the first floor. I mean, we'd been a little bit tetchy because technically, I suppose, we're trespassing, but you get involved in this kind of thing. And the house was completely empty and devoid of furniture. That had been their first target. Having done that, when it's all safe, the other houses are occupied, our client's house, go and do that one instead. And that's when their safe went out over, we reckon, the first floor balcony, probably dropped on the ground, put in the bag.
Well, I mean, this is it. We were actually the party to go and research and contact the homeowners of the additional property. The police hadn't done that. We had informed them after the fact, obviously, that this house had been burgled, most likely at the same time, as you say, prior to our client's property. But we were the ones to go and have a discussion with them. So a lot of times that re-evaluation, re-examination, it can be very important, certainly in the forensic world, and certainly when you're looking at the unorthodox nature of some of the cases that come to us.
Yeah, but it was difficult because Kensington Police put a blank door up on us and said, why are you involved in the whole thing? And then we said, why? And then they started to get slightly embarrassed and they came back to clients 2 weeks later and reopened it all.
This is it. Pressure sometimes can be a benefit.
Well, we didn't put pressure on. I think they were just a little bit embarrassed by the whole thing.
Yeah.
Not a good thing to do. But hey, I mean, we were just doing the job.
Exactly
and
that.
we're good at it.
Well, we were tasked for it and we discovered aspects which had not been examined.
No, it's not just being tasked. We're actually good at it. And I think one of the reasons we're good at the whole thing is we've got the forensic science together. We've got people who know what they're doing and can analyse things. But we look at anything holistically. Look at the whole picture. Not just what is in front of you, not just the footprint, not just the fingerprints. How did it happen? And when you can work out how it happened, you know then what to go and look for. Does that make sense?
It does. You say holistically, it's quite interesting because that brings me on to the gentleman who we assisted with who had a vehicle traffic accident. This was on the A3.
I remember.
And the gentleman, he's a motorbike
I remember
rider.
spending afternoon after afternoon standing on that bridge.
This is it.
Looking for BMWs.
This is a white Mercedes is the one.
Mercedes.
Exactly.
Okay, it was a Mercedes, BMW.
So we had this gentleman come through.
Different badge that looked the same.
Now they all look the same these days. So had this gentleman come through, had a client come through. He'd been hit on the A3, and the problem was he had been hit to a point where he did not recognise the car because he's obviously in a state of distress. Now he assumed it was a white car. There's obviously white scrapes on his motorcycle. Police didn't, unfortunately, want anything to do with it. So he came to us. He said, look, can you actually do anything about this? And exactly as you say, Nigel, this is why it comes back to that holistic nature. We said to him, look, we're not exactly 100% sure which direction to take it in, but let's go experiment. Let's see what we can do. So we took some paint samples from his motorbike. We managed to establish a particular colour of Mercedes that the car belonged to, because using obviously paint colour codes and so forth, which are all displayed in logs and accessible databases. And then we said, right, it's on the A3. It's most likely that this individual is doing a daily commute, and therefore let's go and record all of those cars. We whittled it down to 11, and eventually we got the guy.
I'm sure it was a Mercedes. I had in my head it was a BMW.
Oh, I can assure you, taking those paint samples.
Okay, it was a while ago. I don't remember. I got a photograph of you in a high-vis vest. Grief, can you remember a chap who seemed to take exception to us standing in high-vis vests?
Yes.
Yeah, well, we've got the camera set up, the video set up on a tripod, minding their own business. Standing there just basically filming everything that came through and spotting anything through a long-range camera and taking photographs so he could get the registration number.
I think his issue was the fact that he thought his car was being recorded. Clearly there was something more to that.
I often wondered about him, but hey.
This is what happens in the line of our work, isn't it? So, you know, that case really emphasises the holistic nature of the work that we do. It's the unorthodox ways of going about and finding, gathering that information that's going to be so valuable to a client. So it actually brings me on to a particular case I do fondly remember, the 419 scam. You must remember this.
It's impossible to forget, especially as those things were in infancy. I mean, the 419 scam, it's called 419 because it was Article 419 of the Nigerian Criminal Code. All this happened at the Luton Airport at some stupid time in the morning, so we had to get up at stupid o'clock in the morning and drive up to Luton. The whole pantomime beforehand of getting any of the police services interested was quite a task in itself.
Yes, exactly. How many police forces did we contact? Must have been nearly a dozen.
I started with Surrey, who said no. And started with Surrey simply because the client lived in the area. Went to the Met Police because there was a Met Police involvement. Some of the research that we'd done beforehand, they said no. I went to the Economic Crime Unit, who started to take an interest, but then they couldn't find the resources to go and deal with it, and eventually ended up with Bedfordshire Police and a wonderful DI within Bedfordshire Police who said, yeah, I want to get involved in that. I can see the value of it. I can see an end result at the end of the day, especially after the way that we had set the whole thing up, which I'll go into in a minute. Client was a corporate client of ours who we had dealt with for years and who trusted us, although actually the whole thing involved his father, who was Lithuanian and was coming over to England to go and give people who had got him to believe a set of circumstances involving a car club with 20,000 euros in a pocket in his envelope, not the first money that he had passed on to him. No matter what a client had said to his father did not believe him. He didn't want his bubble burst on the whole thing. With our client's permission, we took over the whole issue, more or less impersonated his father using his email address and so forth, to a different email address, can't exactly remember which, and persuaded these guys to meet with our client's father at Luton Airport as he came in on a flight at stupid o'clock in the morning. I can't remember what time, but I do remember I had to get up very, very early and drive all the way up there in the company of a colleague and a very young colleague of ours, Lisa, who was absolutely fabulous. Now, her job was basically to go and sit at the back of the Costa and just record the whole thing on camera, on a covert camera, very subtly, so nobody knew what was going on.
So a lot of planning, a lot of preparation. How did this all go down?
Well, it actually went down very early in the morning, and turning up at Luton Airport at 5:30 is not on my top list of favourite things to do. because it's quite a long drive up there apart from anything else. Anyway, we turned up, 3 of us, and immediately walked in. I mean, Luton Airport's empty at that time in the morning. You know, it doesn't really start until around about sort of 7-ish, 8-ish, or something, you know, something of that nature. First thing we could see was 2 people in the arrivals terminal. Not to put too fine a point of it, beat officers are fantastic. They don't look great in plain clothes, and it does rather stand out a mile. Having found the DI and recognised that she might be a DI, she then asked us, "How did you know who I was?" And my colleague, to his shame, just said, "I think it was the clipboard that gave it away." She wanted to know who our people were. To which a colleague said, "Well, I think I've clocked a couple of your people. Is your chap over there?" She said, "Well, how do you know that?" I said, "Well, he just bought a Costa coffee and asked for a receipt, and there's the other guy because he sat with his laptop and it isn't even switched on." And she then wanted to know who our people were. And, a colleague said, "Oh, it's me, it's a colleague here. It's Lisa at the back of the Costa coffee." And the DI then said to us, "Who do you mean? I can't see anybody." Essentially, because she was looking at somebody who was 20 years old, bless her, at the time Lisa looked about 15 years old, and was looking straight through her.
Exactly.
It's the difference between the private sector and the public sector. And, and I apologise, I am not decrying the police force for the job that they do, but the concept of somebody sitting like that, being a recorder, was not something that could be grasped.
No, it was unfathomable to the time.
Lisa didn't look like a police officer.
Exactly.
And that was the concept, and that was the perception that was, that was running there.
Well, the beautiful thing about this, if I remember this correctly, was the fact that we had got the scammer to write down the particular wording so that they were clearly visible when we were there at the terminal. So, of course, you've got all these police officers, you've got us there prepared and ready. You've got the scammer there who has lovely produced this writing, clearly visible to all of us.
Oh, we'd emailed them and said, "Could you put my name on a piece of card?"
And it was perfect. It was perfect, all wrapped up. And so, yes, it sounds like it's the perfect closed case, but it's far from it. There was a little piece of intel that was missed.
Yes, well, after the police intercepted the guy who we had got to identify himself by standing there with a banner saying a name on it, which was just a little bit obvious at Luton Airport at stupid o'clock in the morning. We spoke to the DI afterwards, and we said, "So, did you pick the other guy up?" To which the response was, "What other person?" And then showed her photographs of the bagman who had been in the car in line of sight opposite, of which we'd actually got registration number, photographed the registration number, clear photograph of him. I don't know what to say. I mean, I just sound like I'm scathing of the whole police operation on it. It was 10 times what we put into it, and yet we just provided the solution to the whole thing.
I mean, this is it. Without our involvement, there wouldn't have been any evidence of that getaway car. There was a larger scheme afoot. There was clearly a sort of gang involvement here. And without our evidence, that would not have been followed up upon.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she radioed the information through, and he was picked up on the A, whatever it was, that goes out of Luton Airport. About 15 minutes later and apprehended.
And this is it. I agree with you. We don't want this to come across as a scathing report of them. I think it is that working in tandem. We were able to assist. They obviously provided massive support into something that was clearly above the grading that it was needed.
I wish we could work in tandem more. The police forces across the country have the systems, they have the organisation, and they have the resources. All we have is an invoice to the client at the end of the day, which has to be justified. I always think that we justify that invoice by getting to the point that the client wants to achieve.
It is that justification. There are many cases we've been involved with that clients have already approached the police. Malicious mail and theft from the home comes to mind. These clients come to us because they've spoken to the police. Now, for whatever reason, the police might not get involved. It's probably because they're dealing with the murder 2 streets over. That's fair enough. That is in their ballpark. That's what they should be dealing with. But what about Mrs. Muggins, who perhaps has had some gold or her purse or her clothing even taken from her property? When the police come around, a lot of the time they might even suggest, have you got insurance? To which the client will then respond yes or no. And a lot of the time, scenes of crime are not applied because realistically, they think that they're not going to be able to get an achievable result from that. From our perspective, why not turn over every stone, open every door that's possible? It might be someone who is even related to the client. You don't know that until you get involved in the case, and that's what we do. We provide that service to a point where clients want us to be involved because they need to get that answer.
I'll tell you the difference. The difference was a DC detective constable that I knew. We have the luxury of focusing on one client's needs at a time. Yeah? Okay. DC that I knew, we were having a talk with him about a particular issue that there was some cross-dealing with, and he said, yes, great, I can deal with this. I can also deal with the other 85 cases sat on my desk at the moment. That's the reality of the 21st century and 21st century policing. That's just my opinion.
Do you know, I do agree. There are actually many forces and particular police officers that we do collaborate with often because of their expertise and, quite frankly, how brilliant they are and the accolades they carry. I know you've got some examples of people that we've worked with over the years.
Some individual officers, many individual officers, shine out like a complete shining light. I remember Gemma, she's now retired. She was a domestic violence officer we used to deal with very, very often, almost week after week. On the civil side, we serve non-molestation orders, which is essentially an order that says, please stop beating up your wife, stroke girlfriend, or whatever. When that was served on an individual, there would be attached to it what was called a power of arrest. The power of arrest would have to go to the police, who could then exercise it if the respondent then transgressed the court order. Gemma's commitment to a role as a domestic violence officer lasted for 13 years until she eventually retired from the force. And a very, very, very tragic loss because she was so involved, so concerned, so looking after the applicant within the non-molestation order, who was the person who was probably scared for their life and scared for their sanctity. She had so much compassion. That, to me, is the true essence of a police officer, looking after people, being concerned for people in a parochial basis. It dates back to the community police officer. And I do wish that that sort of person had more funding.
Do you know, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, community policing. I was having a conversation with someone literally a day ago about this matter. It used to be when the police officer turned up at your door, PC John Smith or whoever it was, you would invite him in for a cup of tea, right? You'd have a chat about what was going on.
Wasn't he called PC Plod?
Oh, PC Plod, exactly. I won't get into all the other names.
Where did PC Plod come from?
I don't know, actually. Would it
got you? Sorry, carry on.
Postman Pat or something? But no, so...
Postman Pat was years and years and years after PC Plod. I've no idea where PC Plod.
All I'm thinking about is Jess the cat, isn't it?
Jess the cat? Jess the cat, Postman Pat?
Yeah.
No. Okay, right. What were you talking about?
Well, apparently Postman Pat and his black and white cat. No, what I was going to say was the differences of the view of the police then versus now. As I said before, a lot of times the police then, when they were turning up at your door, it was a lovely chat, it was a conversation, it was a cup of tea. Now you're thinking, what have I done wrong? You know, what crimes have I committed? Did I burst through that red light the other day? It is the change of perception. And I think a lot of times it is quite uncomfortable for clients to get them involved.
Why did you drive through a red light?
It's a very good question. I wasn't speeding,
Do
officer.
you know they turned up at 2 a.m. in the pouring rain at my house one night, largely because I've been on some surveillance and some neighbour or something had seen the registration number. 2 o'clock in the morning. I had to get up and go and see to them, and and I sat on the doorstep, and you got good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, one of them was a lovely, lovely guy. The other one, he kind of wanted to go and prove himself and so forth. To the end of the point where I said, look, it is chucking it down with rain. You are very welcome to come in the house, but it's not an invitation.
Yes.
It's just to get out of the rain. So they came into the house. And then good cop said what he needed to know because he was just checking out something quite legitimate. Bad cop, he's decided that I'm the biggest terrorist or perpetrator or whatever. When I turned around and said, look, I really can't tell you what this is about. This is what I do. That's why the vehicle was there. It's fine. I wasn't doing anything wrong. And bad cop starts having a go again at me. And I just said, look, I'm really sorry, but if you want to go and stand out in the rain, your invitation to come in the house only extends to get out of the rain.
Mm-hmm.
And good cop turned around to him and said, best you go and sit in the car. I'll be with you in a few minutes. That's policing.
Yes.
They had something to follow up. They had a vehicle in an area, checked it out. It's all fine. It's all legitimate.
Yes. There was no need to posture. There was no need to interrogate any further.
Completely. They had a job to do. One guy could do it. The other guy, well, let's be charitable and say he was learning. Anyway, enough of that. Let's go back to you. You had some thoughts about forensics and computer forensics and horse boxes.
Do you know, it's horse boxes. There is one thing that comes to mind. I said before how a lot of cases of theft or malicious mail, they end up on our doorstep. And that's normally because no one has decided to get involved prior to our engagement. So we actually had a client a female client with her partner, she had converted a horse box into essentially movable accommodation. It was all hitched onto the back of 4x4. It was lovely. However, what had happened on one night was the horse box was destroyed. We're talking about £40,000 worth of criminal damage. Police, they came, they took one look, they took a couple of items away, a particular Marmite jar, you either love it or hate it, and they did nothing with it.
I hate Marmite.
Oh, well, me too, actually. But the problem is they did nothing with the jar whatsoever. So the client came to us after about 6-8 weeks, right? So literally zero work had been done at this point in time. These items had been kept in police storage. She said to us, look, can you actually do anything? We said, yeah, of course. The lengthy process of getting that Marmite jar, of course, they probably had emptied it in their store, but none the wiser. It took ages to get that back to us. Once we got hold of it, we did some forensic analysis. We compared it to the horse box itself, took some fingerprints off of the damaged materials. We compared one and the same. Do you know what we did? We proved that it was her ex-partner. His fingerprints were all over the horse box, they were all over the Marmite jar, and they were all over another item that we tested to compare and bring the whole thing together.
Okay, question. How did you identify his fingerprints?
Yes, so this is the other additional item. Now, because he was an ex-partner, the client had a particular item which he had handled in the past, right? So what we did is we treated that item, compared it to the Marmite jar, proved they were one and the same. We then also conducted forensics on the actual horse box. Again, confirmed that his fingerprints were on the horse box, on the Marmite jar, and on the piece of paper that she had kept.
Okay, the authorities have forensic resources that we don't have.
Sure.
What do we have?
Well, while yes, we can replicate the computer and the fingerprinting evidence, sometimes even better than they can, I might add, there are differences, there's specialisms. I'm thinking about the audio enhancement, the verification as well. A lot of times we're provided particular audio files that need either cleaning up and enhancing, or they need verification, proving if they've been tampered with. Listen to our episode on that. I talk a lot about audio enhancement and how we produce the results here at Answers Investigation. There are differences in their line of work and how we operate. we are able to provide those particular services that fall outside of the realm of the lay police officer.
Why would a client come to us rather than go to the police?
I'll come back to what I said at the start of the episode. It's jurisdiction and it's discretion. Many cases need to have that particular touch of a private investigator so that it doesn't explode out into something that becomes a PR nightmare. And it's jurisdiction. Listen to all of our episodes where we've done cases internationally. There was a recent one about Monaco, Nice. A lot of these cases, they cannot be handled by police forces back in the UK because they do not have that jurisdiction. So to me, those are two key areas. But as I say, specialisms is also important. Doing something which the police are unable to do or perhaps they cannot look into.
How much is associated with budget, do you think?
I think with the fingerprinting, it's very true. I think if you take the police force back many, many years ago, your average detectives were trained in being a fingerprint technician, right? They could take the fingerprints from a scenes of crime. Mm-hmm. Now it's police staff, right? It's not your detective who goes out on the beat or deals with the murders.
Yeah, but they're doing more important things, aren't they?
True, but take it on the basis of holistic nature. If you have someone who can only look at one half of the coin, how can they understand the full picture? And I think that's important in the work that we do. We're able to take that case and say, hey, listen, we can look at the whole picture rather than being able to provide you one half of the coin.
I talked earlier about looking at things holistically.
Yes.
We have that luxury. It's not, you've got to go on to the next case, you've got to go on to the next job that's on the list. Do you think that makes a difference?
Oh, I really think so, because we're able to give that due attention and time rather than it being something which is, you pop in on Saturday and you're out by Tuesday. We're there throughout the beginning, middle and end. We take it from the start all the way through to conviction. We'll provide evidence in witness testimonies. We'll provide evidence for court cases. We will do everything from beginning to end.
But why is that? What's the difference? What's the difference between a criminal public service and a private service which you pay for at the end of the day?
It's a good point. I'm actually reminded by words of a colleague of ours whose ex-job as well. He would always go on and describe how a lot of times clients will not get the police involved for actually fear of what happens. Where does it go? What do I give up in the process of having them involved? Are they capable of taking on my specific needs? And I think that's where we come in. We are looking at the specific needs of a client. We're not talking about CPS prosecution. We want to achieve the results and the objectives set out and provided by our client.
And on top of that, very often, I am sure with a corporate client, they just want to keep it quiet.
Yes.
They don't want a negative PR.
No.
They don't want people to know about the internal accountant who's defrauding them, about the employee who is doing very, very bad things within the company and selling out the information to somebody else. They just don't want the PR. If they go to the police service, even if it's a criminal issue, it becomes public.
Yes. Having a quiet solution to a problem that you just simply want to go away is sometimes at the forefront of our clients' needs. And we're quite happy to provide that without the bravado, without this elongated process. It is a simple matter of dealing with the issue at hand and making sure it does not return.
Well, yeah, I mean, that reflects an awful lot what we do. And we've got a real reputation for working in Europe and Morocco and further afield. And it's why clients come to us. If you listen to the podcast, you'll hear broadcasts from Switzerland, from Monaco, from France. It's keeping it quiet is the wrong word. What's the word I'm searching for?
I think it's keeping it discreet.
Discreet.
But it's also the needs. Take the international cases, for example. When we're dealing with matters in, you mentioned Morocco earlier on. When clients come to us, they want their particular needs dealt with in the country. If you go and look at private investigators in Morocco, you wouldn't find anyone reputable, you won't find anyone of authority in the country. That's why we go and get tasked to go into those countries, because we can take the needs of the client based in the UK, apply our discipline and skills into the country, obviously with all the experience we have from working there already, and can get the results that are necessary and what the client is after. And again, it's that key word of jurisdiction. Imagine this UK client going to the police force in the UK, asking them about dealing with this matter in Morocco. They're not going to touch it with a barge pole. That's where we come in. It's not a no from the offset. It is, yes, we'll go explore that. We'll see what we can do for you.
So in summary, what we're looking at is that, yes, of course, the police will attend to your needs if they are a criminal issue and there is something going to be there as a result at the end of the day. Our focus, our attention as a private company is focusing on your individual needs, on your objective, on where you want to be.
Exactly. It's not about CPS, it's not about prosecution, it's about your goals and how we can gather the evidence and obtain exactly what you need. So there you have it. There's many differences between the public institutions and private investigators, but I think the main core at the end of the day is this unorthodox nature. The cases we get involved with, the people that we speak to, it's so varied, it's so different. We have to have those approaches which fit outside of the confines of the box that the police operate in.
So it's not police versus private detectives. It's horses for courses, one that suits one and one that suits the other. Talk to us, Answers Investigation. You can see all the links on our show notes. Once again, thank you for listening. It was a BMW.
It was a white Mercedes.
No, it was a BMW. I know what a BMW looks like. I drive one.
Well, I hope you didn't hit our client.
It was a BMW.
I'm Adina Loliceru, a Romanian-born private investigator working in the United Kingdom and often in Europe and further afield. I'm trilingual, speaking fluent English, Italian and Romanian. Most people think a certain way, but my mind works differently. It is one of the reasons why I'm good at what I do. I use it to good effect to bring a unique quality to investigation. Be sure to listen to my interview because great work has been put into it. Especially by my interviewer, who has not only had to interview me, but he also had to bring me on an assignment in the middle of the Alps in Switzerland, just to get me on record. Be sure to listen to my episode on Detective Diaries and have sympathy for my interviewer.
Get involved! Detective Diaries is interactive, which involves you, the listener. Do you have a case you'd like discussed? A burning question about investigative life? Send an email to podcast@private-detectives.co.uk or reach out via social media. You may hear your story featured in an upcoming episode. Don't forget to leave your contact details. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast, brought to you by Answers Investigation and UK Fingerprint. If you've enjoyed our conversation and want to learn more about the fascinating world of investigations, be sure to check out Private Detectives Answers Investigation. Their experienced team offers a wide range of discreet and professional services, helping you find the answers you need with integrity and expertise. If you're interested in fingerprint analysis or require specialist fingerprint services, don't miss UK Fingerprint. As one of the leading fingerprint companies in the UK, they provide everything from identification to background checks, working with individuals, businesses, financial institutions, and gambling companies. To find out more, visit www.private-detectives.co.uk, that's a minus sign, and www.ukfingerprint.co.uk. These are your go-to resources for investigative solutions and fingerprint expertise. You can call their office on 020 7158 0332. Thanks once again for tuning in. Until next time, stay curious and keep seeking the truth.